The training will equip FRSC officers with the necessary skills to effectively carry out their duties. Still on security watch, the police in Edo State have arrested 6 persons suspected of engaging in cultism and unlawfully possessing firearms. The suspects range from 27 to 43 years in age. According to Chidi Nwabuzo, the spokesperson of the command, one of the suspects, Godwin Idemudia, confessed to being a member of the IA secret cult. It was his confession that led to the arrest of the others, who also confessed to being a part of the same cult. And that's Security Watch this morning, but stay with us, there are more conversations on the way.
Good morning. This is your daily Security Watch on Now Breakfast.
Stay tuned to your Beyond the News station daily for our up-to-the-minute compact news bulletins from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., bringing you a wide range of local and international news from our news desk. Stay informed, stay updated on Radio Now 95.3 FM.
Connect with us now via our social media channels, facebook.com/RadioNow953FM.
We're on Twitter too. Connect with us there and get involved.
At Radio Now 953FM. 953FM. Like what we do? Share it on your socials and tell everyone.
Want to see some more of us? Head over and meet us on Instagram
at Radio Now 953FM. Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
In order to keep up with our culture of excellence and continue to bring you the very best of radio programming, we invite you, our dear esteemed listener, to share your concerns with us on any of our content and or broadcast practices that you consider unsatisfactory. You can reach us via WhatsApp on 0809 682 2595. That is 0809 682 2595. This is for us to get your feedback on our efforts to continue to build and maintain our relationship with you and also to serve you better. Thank you for choosing Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos.
This is Now Breakfast.
From the north to the south, real people.
So like I said to you, it's some serious elements of the outlaw and official of my party who's 10 years elapsed, who are pleading with me to endorse an illegal extension, and I refuse to be a part of any illegalities.
Real stories every morning.
Most of the IDP, they stay in schools, and once they move in schools, when there is a disaster, the school in that area is automatically shut down.
This is Today in the News on Now Breakfast.
Organised Labour has called off their indefinite strike. Their decision followed a meeting with the National Security Advisor and the Ministers of Labour and Employment in Abuja yesterday. The Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, says further discussions as well as a high-powered investigation are ongoing. The government has also arrested some of those accused of being involved in the attack on NLC President Joe Ajaero, although they were not publicly identified. Our conversation this morning revolves around the legal implications of Labour's actions, which included shutting down essential services in parts of the country. Bolane Olugbani is a legal practitioner and public affairs analyst who joins us now. Good morning and welcome, Mr. Olugbani.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Before we get into the legal matters, let's begin with your reaction to Labour calling off their strike.
Well, it's a good development. It's good for the economy. It's good for the citizenry. And it's good for orderliness in society at this point in time.
I do wonder, this declaration of an end to the strike, do you see it as a capitulation or was it inevitable?
Well, in an era where over the past decade or a decade and a half, Labour's credibility appears to have been on the downward spiral because of their lack of ability to sustain a strike or the compromises that they reach for whatever interest. I cannot say that it is entirely good, because issues that are supposed to have been addressed by the ultimate power of the strike of a union, such as in unions in Nigeria, are issues that seem to be also compromised. And as a result of that, I don't know who is the main beneficiary.
There's a real question on if the federal government could have done everything that they did yesterday to get Labour to call off the strike. Why didn't they do it sooner, as opposed to letting the country witness 2 days of a nationwide strike?
The power of the strike is not really within the ambit of the courts or indeed the federal government. The Constitution, Section 40, guarantees the right of assembly and the right of every Nigerian citizen to belong to a union or to a political party.
Mr. Olugbani, if I may, the question isn't about whether they had the power to say go or don't go. It is that they responded to Labour, did certain things that Labour had asked for, which was within their remit alone. Before then, they'd been silent completely. The minister had never met with the leaders. That's the Minister of Labour and Employment. The NSA hadn't met either. Essentially, there was no one from federal government that was engaging with Labour.
Well, that is the nature of those who are put at the helm of affairs of the country. Even when they even sign agreements with ASU, agreements that are meant to run and supposed to take care of the problems in the educational sector, when they actually sign agreements, they don't abide by those agreements. Talk less of issues that are not signed, issues that are not deliberated upon, or like the Nigerian government is not in the habit of keeping to agreements. That's the long and short.
Now, I want to come to the legal matters. Yesterday, the Kaduna Electricity Distribution Company told customers that their 33 kV feeders had been shut down by striking workers, which essentially hampered their ability to provide an essential service. In a case like this, can Labour be sued? Is this legal?
It is legal for them to shut down those services. Whether Labour can be sued will be dependent on whether, as at the time when they shut down those services, there was a court order saying that they could not. And if they were not served with the court order, as in this instance case, the Federal Attorney General obtained an order ex parte, that is, without the other side being heard, without Labour being represented in court. And that's supposed to be an interim order. But you have to serve the party you are suing. So if for one reason or the other they were not served, they cannot be held accountable for what they did not, formally know about. So suing them, that would have been the right foundation for making a suit against Labour for disobeying a court order, or for the court itself to sanction Labour for being in contempt of court. So the idea of suing them for any form of damages or whatever is a non-starter.
So would it be, and again, I'm coming back to just the possibility that there could be a law enacted in this regard. Shutting down electricity completely it puts a lot of people's lives at risk. More immediately, we think about hospitals, right, where power is critical, especially in this time where diesel is as high as 1,000 plus naira per litre. Is there a possibility that our lawmakers could institute a law or pass a law, and the president signs, that stops Labour from completely shutting down an essential service that could actually lead to the loss of lives? Is that an infringement on any rights?
It's an infringement on their right to strike, because our labour laws also provide for the notification of an industrial action against whichever government, institution, or whatever. So the Labour must comply with the procedure under the labour laws. After having issued a warning strike, after having issued a notice of industrial action, they're supposed to do a warning strike. They've done all that, and then they can actually go on a strike. So when that process is ongoing, all the essential services and institutions are supposed to stockpile or prepare for the eventuality that there may be a strike. So that takes care of the possibility that essential services may be shut down or ground to a halt entirely. And even those members of those unions in the health sector and all the other sectors that are essential usually have part of their union members who are staff to at least run skeletal services. So it's not, when they say it's a strike, not all doctors go on strike. Those that are in ICU, those that have to do with power generation, usually have members of their union switching on power for periods of time that allows the entire system not to grind to a perfect halt.
Mr. Olugbani, thank you for this conversation and the insight you've shared with us. Mr. Bolanle Olugbani is a legal practitioner and public affairs analyst speaking to us on the legal implications or impact of Labour's actions, but also reacting to Labour calling off the strike. This occurred just yesterday.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
For the 10th consecutive time this year, Nigeria's inflation rate has risen once again, hitting 27.33% in October. The latest consumer price index released by the National Bureau of Statistics shows that though the prices of goods and services rose, food inflation slowed down to 1.91%. Overall, the rising inflation numbers show a year-on-year increase as well as a month-on-month increase. For more on this, we're joined by Vincent Oshoma, Chief Dealer and Head Capital Market at Interstate Securities Limited. Good morning, Mr. Oshoma. Welcome to the conversation.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Let's start off with, many had predicted that we would see an increase in the numbers. I'd like you to speak to the rate of the increase. Does it come as a surprise?
Yeah, it's not surprising when you look at what is currently happening with prices. There have been an increase in price. So, and when you look at the situation that brought us here, those issues have not actually been resolved. So it's not surprising that there's an increase. And also the deceleration, month-on-month reduction in deceleration is also not surprising because we have not really seen spikes like we saw when there was the initial stage of subsidy removal and devaluation. So there have been a gradual increase, especially when you look at the forex. There has not been an increase in prices because government have put a seal on the price of petroleum. So there will be steep increase in price of fuel, but there have been increase in other prices because of the devaluation. So that's why we have not seen a really serious increase in the comparing. When you look at it month-on-month increase, there have been a deceleration. But the normal year-on-year, there have been an increase, and that's not surprising.
So I want to speak to the food inflation rate. It slowed down in both September and in October. Can you identify what the cause is?
Yes, like I mentioned, across board there was a month-on-month deceleration, but year-on-year increase. Because when you look at it, like I mentioned, when in June, May-June, when there was an increase in devaluation, when there was a subsidy removal, we saw a steep increase. Then at the same time, when there was a devaluation, we also see a steep increase. But when you look at the increase from those times, it's not as steep as it was when at those initial stages. So that's why we can say there's some level of deceleration. But those factors are still here with us. When you talk about the factors that have given us this thing, the removal of subsidies that have led to increase in transportation, and you talk about the devaluation that have led to increase in price because Nigeria is an import-dependent economy. So the price of goods and services are still going to be high. Then another major one is the fact that as a result of devaluation, we have seen an increase in the price of diesel. And diesel is one of the major that powers in terms of energy. It's one of the major sources of energy for most businesses. So that's also a major factor when you look at the increase in inflation.
You know, it's worth saying that it was pointed out that in the food inflation, we saw what was a reduction in the rate of increase in average prices of fruits, oil and fat, coffee, tea, cocoa beans and cereals. I'm curious, this is November, we're still a few weeks from the end of the year, but Yuletide activities essentially begin. Do you think that we can sustain this trend? Well,
there are two factors. As much as we expect the Yuletide activities to affect in terms of demand, but when you look at the current situation of the average Nigeria, I think demand may affect the prices because the producers may be conscious of price, but increasing prices because demand has been affected. So I think there may not be a steep increase as we normally expect for the youth because a lot of persons, their income has been affected. The food and other things have been affected in terms of prices. So I think demand will be affected, and as a result of the impact on demand, it will affect prices in the youth. I don't really see a major increase for the youth despite the normal demand I usually expect because people will have to cut down on their demand because of the current prices.
Have you seen anything from government, whether at the center or subnational, that gives you a sense that we're working towards curbing these numbers?
I would say we have seen more of statements, but in terms of real action, that we are impact of the action, we have not really seen much. I'll give you some instances. One is the major issues that are driving this inflation. Let's look at the issues that are driving this inflation. One, let's start from the forex. There have been a lot of talks about trying to meet the demand in the forex market to try and reduce the increase in exchange rate. And there was talk about clearing the backlogs, which led to a reduction. But after that, we are saying that the price is going back to their previous level. Remember, in October, it went as 1,300 in the parallel market. And so we saw a reduction to around the 1,000 levels, but now it's gradually going back there. So I would say if the government steps is actually yielding results, we have not really seen much impact in terms of sustainable impact. Then you also look at in terms of plans to convert, to make Nigerians start using gas, the CNG plants. Yeah, there have been a lot of talks around it, but we have not really started seeing friction in terms of the impact of those measures. So that's we can't really say that they are producing fruit. Then they also talk about giving farmers fertilizers and also seedlings. So those ones, like I've mentioned before, these are long-term steps that we don't really see that we yield fruit in the short term. So that's why we continue to see this spike in prices despite those talks and plans by the government. Basically, what I will always say is that to deal with the issue of inflation, it requires a comprehensive approach because we have multi-dimensional issues that have got us to this stage. And so it requires a comprehensive approach both from the fiscal, the monetary policy, and from all sectors of it, including the state governments. I think we need a comprehensive plan at the government at all levels to really solve these issues.
Mr. Oshoma, thank you so much for joining us on the conversation. Mr. Vincent Oshoma is Chief Dealer and Head Capital Market at Interstate Securities Limited.
You're listening to Now Breakfast.
The Labour Party and Atan Achonu, its Imo State governorship candidate, have given INEC a 7-day ultimatum to cancel the recently concluded election. A similar call has been made by the People's Democratic Party and its candidate Samuel Anyanwu, who held a joint press conference with Mr. Achonu. Both candidates described Saturday's election as a war and alleged that there was massive rigging during the exercise, as well as the diversion of electoral materials to private homes where they say ballots were thumbprinted. For more on this 7-day ultimatum, I spoke with Excel Ochama, the deputy chairman of the Labour Party in Imo State, and he starts off with a response to what happens if the 7 days expire with no action from INEC.
I want to believe that INEC would comply. I want to believe that in every sense that INEC would comply because it has to do with law and order. It has to do with the soul of democracy in Nigeria. We have given, as a party, a 7-day ultimatum. And if that expires and INEC does not comply, we will seek a judicial redress, a legal redress.
And will you be doing this along with the PDP?
I represent the Labour Party. I speak for Labour Party. I don't have the power.
I understand. I ask this because your party and the PDP, your candidate and the PDP's candidate decided to make a joint press statement. Conference, yes.
That they did, but in a legal suit, both of them cannot speak on the same page. They will speak for their individual parties, and that's what I'm doing exactly at this moment.
Yes, I understand this, and I don't know, I mean, I hate to preempt the conversation, but can you give us a sense of what sort of charges, if at all this goes to court, what exactly will you be challenging?
The process. The process, as you can see, as you saw, was extremely faulty, and we'll be challenging the process basically. Then orders will be made available to the public through our legal team.
And in this process that you're challenging, I mean, if you challenge the process, that means it's got implications on the result itself. Are you going to be asking the court to declare your candidate winner or asking for a rerun?
You are going to hear that from our legal team. It's going to be a legal battle, but I can assure you that I will not be preempting the court, and I will not be preempting our legal team. So they will advise us on the best way possible to get justice on our part.
The APC in the state, the chairman yesterday was speaking, McDonald Ebere, and he's already called for all those who lost out to essentially rally bandy behind Governor Uzodimma and help in building Imo State further. How is your party receiving this extension of a hand of fellowship?
You call that an extension of hand of fellowship? We have this Igbo adage that says you don't beat a child and ask her or him not to cry. So we don't consider it an olive branch in any sense. We don't consider it an extension of a hand of fellowship because we're still aggrieved. And it is only when we go through the court and the court tells us there was no need for us being angry in the first instance that we can start any form of consideration. But at this time, from the layman's point of view, we can categorically tell you that the whole process was faulty and we'll be challenging it. Thank you.
I noted something a little earlier. So what you're saying is if, and again this is a big if because we have to see the process actually begin, if the court decides to uphold the results of the election, you're saying your party will accept the results as such and then take next steps forward?
The court will never do the same like that. The court will never give credence to
I mean, that's an assumption.
And that's a personal opinion. I would not say a word to reinforce what you have just said.
Mr. Excel Ochama is Deputy Chairman of the Labour Party in Imo State, speaking to me on the party's intended plans to challenge the outcome of the Imo State elections in court. In a few minutes here on Now Breakfast, our newsmaker joins us and we discuss the federal government's plans to essentially shift Nigeria towards compressed natural gas, the fuel of the future, in a few minutes. My name is Nabila Usman. This is Now Breakfast.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
Babes, now how much be sanitary pad for your area?
Omo, na play we been dey play before. Everybody wey dey this place wey be human being, na pad dey buy take do period. She go bring her wrapper, cut all her wrapper wey she get. They use dey do period. Which kind of nonsense be this?
Ijoma, see what you are saying to your fellow woman who is in need. Ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn ti pọ̀jù.
Now so they use clothes now. Abi we no go chop first.
Auntie Ijoma, what did my mommy ever do to you? It's not fair.
Now if a story be this, My Period, My Pride radio drama season 1. Now sanitary pad media campaign power up with support from MacArthur Foundation and Radio Now 95.3 FM every Saturday at 10 a.m.
The Financial Services Regulation Coordinating Committee, FSRCC, in collaboration with the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, wishes to draw the attention of the public to the activities of illegal financial operators, IFOs, which threaten public trust and the stability of the Nigerian financial system. The general public is hereby advised to refrain from dealing with unlicensed financial operators who deceive individuals with unrealistically high investment returns. Verify the licensing status of such schemes on this website websites www.cbn.gov.ng, www.nicom.gov.ng, www.pencom.gov.ng, www.sec.gov.ng. To report any suspicions of illicit financial activities, call 0700 225 5226, 0800 225 5226, or +234 817 665 6273. Announcer, FSRCC.
Dream Africa is offering the opportunity to dream, is valuing the talents of our continent and supporting its development.
Dream Africa is spreading its authenticity, encouraging its passions, and the pursuit of its ambitions around the world.
Meet Morocco is embodying the best of Morocco and revealing the country's hospitality and openness to the world.
Meet Morocco is taking advantage of an ideal location that connects Africa to the world.
Dream Africa, Meet Morocco is Royal Air Morocco's new commitment to put our country and our continent on the path of progress.
Royal Air Maroc, Dream Africa, Meet Morocco.
Bam! Join us on the Loving Football Show every Thursday at 8 p.m. on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos for expert Premier League football reviews and analysis.
Every second and every minute, something new happens. The news breaks.
3 people at a spot, and angry mob decided to bomb.
Everyone wants to share it, but not everyone wants to dig deep. Now that's where we come in. We bring you the news and go beyond with in-depth conversations and analysis with stakeholders.
I honestly think that the federal government on its own part has
if voters or more people want to be part of that decision-making process, they need to be part
of it. Is not a good measure of development anyways. We are not there. We need to counter the narrative of the fact that their vote does not count. If their vote does not count.
We bring you the story within the story, and that's what makes us tick. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we go beyond the news.
You're listening to Now Breakfast.
In partial fulfillment of the federal government's promise to move Nigeria towards more energy-efficient and cost-efficient transportation, the administration has launched the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative. 7 conversion centers have been unveiled across the country, with plans to expand the number of centers over the next few years. This initiative specifically targets the introduction of over 11,500 new CNG-enabled vehicles and the facilitation of 55,000 CNG conversion kits for existing vehicles reliant on petrol. Saidu Al-Qadi, who's the Minister of Transportation, says CNG could earn the federal government over 200 billion naira from every 1 million cars converted. Our newsmaker is engineer Joyce Dasa Adams, the Chief Executive Officer of Auto Lady Engineering Technology Limited, and she joins us this morning. Hello, Engineer Adams, can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Hi, Engineer, good morning, and welcome to the conversation. Let me start off with just the work so far. We've been hearing CNG conversion for a little while now from the previous administration. What's your estimation of what the government has done so far?
Well, to be honest, there's an improvement compared to how it started. And a lot of private companies are coming up with conversions. And also the presidential CNG initiative is actually a good idea from the government as a support to drive this initiative, this CNG conversion across Nigeria.
So for the sake of people who keep hearing, when people hear CNG and the G there stands for gas, people are really thinking about a highly flammable substance that could probably make their cars explode. For the sake of people like that, could you, speak to us about just the safety or what it would take to see these conversions from petrol to CNG-powered vehicles?
Okay, when people hear gas, the fear of gas is actually normal. But CNG, compressed natural gas, is the safest, is even safer than petrol because it is lighter than air. And most of the features, the components, the conversion kits now has a lot of safety devices. If you do not even do your conversion right from the first place, the vehicle will not work. If there are leakage, if you sense any leakage, the conversion, it won't work at all. So that's one of the good things about the conversion kit because of the safety device it has. So it's nothing to worry about because if, for instance, if there is a leakage in petrol through the injector, there's going to be an explosion. But in terms of CNG, it's going to, the air will dissipate within seconds. It will not split to cause that explosion. Instead, it will dissipate and shut off supply of gas to go to the combustion system. So CNG is safe, 100% safe than petrol.
I wonder, this is something that's being spearheaded by the federal government, but it's not as if Nigeria has, like maybe 2,000 vehicles in the country. We have, I think, an estimated 10 million or so, which is still a small number. But we do have millions of cars, meaning that, ideally, this should be something that's spearheaded by the private sector than the public sector. Do you agree with that? If you think that it's public, what are some of the things that you think we should start paying attention to?
Okay, so now what the presidential CNG is trying to do is to partner with private companies like us.
PPP.
So there are a lot of private, that they are going into. I will not say that private is just kind of a strategy for this implementation. And the government cannot do it alone, and also the private company cannot do it alone. They also need the support from the government to be able to achieve, because there are a lot of challenges surrounding this importation of bringing these kits to Nigeria. And if governments did not approve, like the waiver and all that, it will be very difficult for private to also penetrate Nigerians in terms of costing of the conversion. So they are really, they are doing well, and I'm hoping that they'll continue to do that.
And that conversation around penetration, convincing Nigerians that this is the way to go, from what you've seen, how well are we having that conversation?
Okay, so now maybe I should just highlight some of the strategy objective for the presidential strategy. So one of the objectives is to catalyze the development of CNG to enable transportation system in Nigeria that is cheap, clean, and also to support states for CNG buses as part of the instructed mass transit network. Then also to support the deployment of CNG vehicles through existing private mass transit operators. And also to enable the public sector to convert over 130,000 vehicles to CNG. I think the target about 2027 to achieve that. And they also plan to establish 40,000 auto gas conversion workshops before 2020 by 2027. So for also they plan to also have CNG station, because that's one another challenge they are facing. We are facing actually. There are no gases available. You cannot convert your vehicle and get an instant location for you to a close by location for you to refuel. So they are also planning to set up about 100 stations across 20 states as well by 2024, I think. Either 2024 or 2025, I'm not sure.
And this point you've
made... So
made,
there are lots of work ongoing. Yeah.
Engineer Joyce, this point you've made is what took me to the question on the likelihood, how well the Nigerian people are responding just so far. I know that this was about 2-3 weeks ago that it was just 7 conversion centers that had been established. But I remember there was a pilot test that was done, I think it was in Edo State a few years ago, where this was supposed to be a thing. Taxi drivers would have their vehicles converted to CNG powered, and then, from there we would scale it up across the country. So just based on that pilot test, based on the conversations you are having and what you're seeing from the Nigerian people, how well do you think we are heading towards convincing people that this is the right alternative?
Okay, now, before the fuel subsidy was removed, it was difficult for you to convince somebody to convert his vehicle in the first place when they hear gas. But we've done a lot of sensitization on safety, to tell them how safe CNG is. And immediately fuel subsidy was removed, and they found out that it is the only cheaper means of transportation. Of course, everybody is interested. In fact, we receive calls every day for conversions. A lot of people are interested. The only limitation they are having is the cost of conversion, which the government is also trying to see how this can be reduced. The cost of conversion can be reduced. And also, we as private company are also trying to see how we can make a payment plan options for car owners in order for it to be flexible for them to pay and so on. Yeah.
You talked
so it's really
about
acceptable. I would say 100%.
The cost of conversion that you mentioned, on average, how much would it cost?
Okay, coming from my own angle, the conversion falls around 350 for a 4-cylinder engine. Different vehicles with their capacity.
Engineer Joyce, can you hear me?
The lowest capacity is a 4-cylinder engine.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, apologies. We had a connection.
Can you hear me?
Oh dear. All right, so we're going to try to re-establish on a steadier line. There's definitely a lag that we're experiencing between both ends, and we're going to try to bring it to a minimum in just a moment. If you're just joining us, this is our Newsmaker here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. I'm speaking with Engineer Joyce Dasa Adams. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Auto Lady Engineering Technology Limited. In just a bit, we'll re-establish connection.
Every second and every minute, something new happens. The news breaks.
3 people at a spot, and angry mob decided to bomb.
Everyone wants to share it, but not everyone wants to dig deep. Now that's where we come in. We bring you the news and go beyond with in-depth conversations and analysis with stakeholders.
I honestly think that the federal government on its own part has broken.
If voters or more people want to be part of that decision-making process, they need to be part.
GDP is not a good measure of development anyways. We are not there yet. We need to counter the narrative of the fact that our vote does not count. If your vote does not count.
We bring you the story within the story, and that's what makes us tick. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we go beyond the news. In order to keep up with our culture of excellence and continue to bring you the very best of radio programming, we invite you, our dear esteemed listener, to share your concerns with us on any of our content and or broadcast practices that you consider unsatisfactory. You can reach us via WhatsApp on 0809 682 2595. That is 0809 682 2595. This is for us to get your feedback on our efforts to continue to build and maintain our relationship with you and also to serve you better. Thank you for choosing Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos.
You're listening to Now Breakfast.
Welcome back. It's on Newsmaker. Engineer Joyce Dasa Adams, the Chief Executive Officer of Auto Lady Technology Limited, speaking to me on the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative, an initiative that's driving Nigeria from a fuel-powered present, right, to a CNG-powered future. Engineer Joyce, you were speaking earlier on just the cost of conversion. Could you recap that? How much would it cost on average?
Okay, on average, a conversion should be from 300,000 upward. Depends on your vehicle, because the different vehicles have their own capacity. 4-cylinder engine, a V6 engine, and also a V8 engine. So an average of 300 upward. Yes, 300,000.
So there was a 2019 research, so it's a few years off, right? It's outdated and there's likely greater numbers, but across the world, the two countries with the highest number of CNG powered vehicles were Iran and China, with about 4 million vehicles each. And this raises the question of whether once we've established this as a proper, the uptake is widespread. Once that happens, will we continue to look towards conversion as opposed to importing or piecing together vehicles here in Nigeria that actually are designed from the initial for CNG?
Can you come again, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I don't understand the question.
I'm asking, because right now we're talking about conversions. I'm asking,
yes,
will we get to a point where vehicles that we use are already made for CNG? I mean, this from a layman's perspective.
Okay,
yes.
Gas-powered vehicle. Yes, but you know that we already have existing vehicles in Nigeria.
I understand this, yes.
That has to be converted. And also, we have local manufacturers that are already producing a gas-powered vehicle like Innocent. So it's something that we know we'll get to as well. I personally would prefer a gas-powered vehicle than even to convert a vehicle. So it's something I feel we will get to, and we're already doing it.
So this takes me back to the first bit of the question, right? Across the world, there isn't a serious uptake of gas-powered vehicles. In fact, the conversation right now is more dominated by electric-powered vehicles. So what's the possibility that we're actually going to be, for Nigeria would become an established hub for this option?
Okay, if we check the abundance, if we are talking about gas in Nigeria, we have it enough in abundance. That if we will be looking at Nigerians to export these gases to them. So Nigeria is blessed with these natural gases, and we have not even utilized up to how many percent of it. So, yeah.
Right. Look, so I want to sort of, as we come to the end of the conversation, if you can perhaps give tips to our listeners around whether it's the preparation measures or what exactly they need to do as they look towards actually shifting their vehicle from petrol powered to gas powered.
Okay, so for you to convert your vehicle has to be in good condition. You don't expect a vehicle that is smoking or the engine is weak to be converted. So if you want to convert your vehicle, you have to ensure that that vehicle is in good condition, because you are adding another system into the already existing system already. Because, you know, the conversion kit has its own device. So it is expected that that vehicle is in good condition. And also, if you convert your vehicle as well, it also improves the lifespan of your engine. So it's really good for you to convert your cars and your vehicle to run on CNG, and it's very, very cheap to maintain.
Well, Engineer Joyce, I want to say thank you for your time. I appreciate you speaking to us on this this morning. Engineer Joyce Dasa Adams is the Chief Executive Officer of Auto Lady Engineering Technology Limited, who's just joined us to speak on the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative. As of last month, the government had unveiled 7 conversion centers across the country. There's actually one here in Lagos as well, by the way. This initiative targets the introduction of over 11,500 new CNG-enabled vehicles and the facilitation of 55,000 CNG conversion kits for existing vehicles that are reliant on petrol. You're listening to Now Breakfast on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. Stay with us in just a bit. The news review comes your way.
Every second and every minute, something new happens. The news brings.
And angry mob decided to bomb.
Everyone wants to share it, but not everyone wants to dig deep. Now that's where we come in. We bring you the news and go beyond with in-depth conversations and analysis with stakeholders.
I honestly think that the federal government on its own part has broken. If voters or more people want to be part of that decision-making process, they need to be part. GDP is not a good measure of development anyways. We are not there. We need to counter the narrative of the fact that our vote does not count. If your vote does not count.
We bring you the story within the story, and that's what makes us tick. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we go beyond the news. We are Africans. For years, our story has been told by outsiders, dissected and created to pull us apart. Now, it's time to come together as a people, shape the narrative, tell the stories from the African perspective. Tune in to Africa in Perspective every week as we bring Africans to the table to analyze the issues and prefer solutions. Africa in Perspective. Thursdays 9 a.m. and 2:15 p.m. on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos.
Stay tuned to your Beyond the News station daily for our up-to-the-minute compact news bulletins from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., bringing you a wide range of local and international news from our news desk. Stay informed, stay updated on Radio Now 95.3 FM.
This is Now Breakfast.
It's still Now Breakfast here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. My name's Nabila Usman. Today's Thursday, the 16th of November. In a few minutes, we'll be running up to the headlines at the top of the hour. And right after that, the news review will kick off. A few things I will be discussing as we go into the 8 a.m. hours around the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress, both calling off the nationwide strike which began on Tuesday. They finally had a conversation with the National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu, the Minister of Labour and Employment Simon Lalong, and the Minister of State for Labour and Employment Nkiru Onyejuocha. I will be opening up the phone lines to get your thoughts on it. But also, just earlier this morning on the show, we were discussing a comment that was made by the head of the ICPC, Professor Bolaji Owosanue, who had cause to say that it is wrong to label all Nigerians as corrupt. This struck a philosophical conversation of sorts with Taufik, who called in and said, look, the default status for every human being is it tends more towards corruption. This is something he and I were discussing. It is International Philosophy Day, by the way, so it was really within philosophical lines. And my question to you really is, if you do believe that we have a default nature, right, a tendency towards corruption, and the only thing we're waiting for is the right situation, I would have to ask you if you've been confronted with that situation. There are a number of people who, on a default status, if you like, tend more towards law and order, whatever law and order means in that particular situation. These are some of the conversations that will form the discussion during the news review, which comes up next.
You're listening to Now Breakfast. Be a part of our online community on Facebook. Like our page on www.facebook.com/This Is Radio Now to join every conversation on air and get up-to-date news information on the go.
Stay tuned to your Beyond the News station daily for our up-to-the-minute compact news bulletins from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., bringing you a wide range of local and international news from our news desk. Stay informed, stay updated on Radio Now 95.3 FM.
Across Nigeria, Africa, and the world, this is Radio Now News.
In the headlines this morning, first in local news, Labour calls off strike following meeting with Ribadu Lalong. Court dismisses Labour Party's appeal, affirms Sanwo-Olu's victory. Saudi Arabia Embassy says Air Peace passengers didn't meet entry requirements. Senate to take position on concrete roads soon, says Works Committee. In business and economy, Nigeria's inflation rate hits 27.33%. In showbiz and entertainment, Ashake to feature American singer Her on Lonely on Top remix. On the foreign scene, South Africa says world must urge Israel to stop crime against humanity in Gaza. And in sports, Iwobi promises Super Eagles will give 100% against Lesotho. These are your 8 a.m. headlines here on Radio Now 95.3 FM, Lagos. I am Nabila Osman. Thank you for listening. The news review begins shortly. Do stay tuned.
This is Radio Now News. Every second and every minute, something new happens. The news breaks.
And angry mobs decided to bomb.
Everyone wants to share it, but not everyone wants to dig deep. Now that's where we come in. We bring you the news and go beyond with in-depth conversations and analysis with stakeholders.
I honestly think that the federal government on its own part has broken. If voters or more people want to be part of that decision-making process, they need to be part.
GDP is not a good measure of development anyways. We are not there yet. We need to counter the narrative of the fact that our vote does not count. If your vote does not count.
We bring you the story within the story. And that's what makes us tick. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we go beyond the news.
This is Now Breakfast.
Grab a seat, pour a cup of coffee, and join the conversation on Now Breakfast. Let's go beyond the news. Let's talk facts.
First and foremost, the government will never kowtow to the threat of any group to give it conditions.
Let's discuss your opinion.
The politicians in Nigeria don't understand the principle of politics.
The day's biggest news stories.
IPOB has been covered in themselves in glory. There is nothing special about them. It's like a witch cried at night and the child died falling money.
This is the news review on Now Breakfast.
Welcome back. This morning, Thursday the 16th of November, we're taking a look at the stories on the front pages of the dailies. If you're just joining us, you're tuned to Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. The show is Now Breakfast, and my name's Nabila Osman. My guest on the news review today is long time no see, long time no speak, Achike Chude. Hi Achike, good morning.
I don't know whether I was one that abandoned you or you abandoned me. I don't know about that, but it's a pleasure to be on your program today.
Chike, I think it's time to off your mic. But yes, it is a pleasure to have you on. And you know what? It's working just as well. It's the right time because Labour has called off its strike, right? This came yesterday. It's on the front page of both the Daily Trust and the Guardian, or the Guardian in particular, although they're not taking it as, they're not taking it as their lead story. Apparently the media is bothered by other things. What are your thoughts? Just seeing the statement that Labour put out yesterday on their reasons for suspending the strike.
Well, I think it was significant you mentioned the fact that it's not exactly the lead story. Under normal circumstances, it should be. But I think citizens have gotten used to what some of them see as tantrums by Labour. And so maybe that's why it's not in the front pages. But I think still it is quite significant because we all understand the impact of general labor strike on the economy and the country. But it is also, again, we must not lose sight of the reasons why labor is going on strike. It's not just because of the attack on Joe Ajaero, the president of the NLC, which it was quite a perfidious act on the by the people who did it and the people who protected them or shielded them from punishment. But it also signaled, indicated something much more devious within the system, that if you've gotten to the level of attacking the president of the NLC, which was never ever done, even under the worst military dictatorships we have done in this country, it means anybody can become a victim. And we have seen that Nigerians have been victims for so long. But what it meant exactly that the state governor can decide to just get up and arrest the chairman of NSC or the TUC in the state, and nothing is going to happen. So it was, a reaction. It was an existential threat to labor and to labor in general, and so they had to act. But I think it is a good thing. But the issue is why a one day, because people had settled into the fact that yes, this might actually happen, and they might be all embracing. We were told that after the initial unions entered into the fray, that others that were also vital, aviation, in banking, and all that, all the others would also get involved. But obviously, the government tried to move very, very fast and engaged the labor. And based on the reasons that Labour gave for calling off the strike, they said that the government had seemed to show seriousness and commitment to the demands that they had made about the need to bring those people who were culpable for that attack on Ajaero and his people to bring them to book. Not just the commissioner of police who has been transferred, but all the other people that were also involved, including the aide to the governor. I think we were Mr. Waneri, that they should also. So obviously they seem satisfied that issue has been resolved.
So, Achike, I mean, if you're going to shut down services across the country, I understand the need to have made a statement regarding the assault on the NLC president, right? But this was a Labour that they listed the names of those in particular that they wanted to see either fired, arrested, prosecuted, whatever the case may be. Then yesterday they come out and say, look, the NSA has told us that they've arrested someone or some persons and the rest will be detained soon. They don't tell the Nigerian people who these people are, who was arrested, right? And this is a country that already doesn't trust even Labour. They don't trust Labour's intentions when it comes to whether they're politically motivated or not. Should we have heard who exactly was detained?
Yeah, but I to some extent maybe, but don't forget that this is a Labour and the federal government issue. This is not a Labour and the Nigerian people issue.
I mean, they made it a Nigerian people issue when they went on strike and crippled services in certain parts of the country, certain services in all parts of the country.
Yeah, but they were acting in their own interest. Don't forget that, the civil society, can also on their own decide to organize themselves and constitute themselves into a force and stop relying so much on directives and proclamations from Labour. Because you see, what is happening is that it signals a weakness of civil society. Civil society, there was a time in this country when civil society dictated the pace to Labour. The days of the Civil Liberties Organization, campaign for the CDHR, campaign for the defense of human rights, campaign for democracy, CD. They were the ones that called the shots in this country. And so when they shouted, the government, even the military dictatorships, responded to them. And so whenever they went on an action, Labour had to follow. Now, civil society has taken the back bench, perhaps, of course, because of the inherent weakness within civil society, and then now Labour is calling the shots, and so people are not exactly sometimes happy with the way Labour has conducted itself in certain ways. But we always forget the fact that Labour has a primary constituency, and that is to the workers of the Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress. Their primary constituency is not to the Nigerian people. And so the day we get it right, we realize that we can try to function without Labour, that Labour has no choice than to join the Nigerian people when such an action is undertaken. But we have not built that force, that momentum, that we have not built that organization that can actually do it effectively. And so we keep on relying, and that's putting too much burden on Labour. Don't forget that Labour is bound by the International Labour Convention, the various international labor conventions, and they are supposed to act in certain ways under certain contexts and circumstances. So these are things that we need to get right, and that's the only way we can actually begin the process of building civil society. Because ultimately, the redemption of this country from the political morass we found ourselves is a task that is thrust upon the Nigerian people and not Nigerian Labour Congress or the TUC. They are only an ancillary part of this of the citizens of this country. Well, so if we build that kind of momentum, that kind of force, they have no choice than to be part of it because they are part of the Nigerian society.
So I still, just before we leave this conversation, I continue to go back to the question on how the federal government handled this matter. Yes, it was initially an Imo State Labour matter, but the moment there was the attack on Joe Ajaero, whether it was motivated or spearheaded by the police or the state government, whoever, because that was a security situation, automatically the center entered the fray. And of course, they were silent. And this was across the board until Bayo Ononuga, the president's essay, released the statement he did on the day that Labour decided to go on strike, either just a few hours before it kicked in or just a few hours after. Yesterday, the National Assembly also waded in. They've been silent all this while. They finally mention it in the upper chamber and the lower chamber. And I want to quickly play a short clip of Representative Yusuf Gagdi. He's a lawmaker from Plateau representing Pangshin, Kanke and Kanam constituency. Just very quickly, here's what he had to say.
He cannot use his personal grievances with some citizens or some government to suffocate activities of government in Nigeria. Let him fight for Nigerian people, not fight for himself.
So that was Representative Yusuf Gagdi speaking, and you can hear how passionately upset, furious he is by how things turned out. And I don't know if it strikes me that perhaps this was the sentiment at the center, the federal level, that this was a matter between Labour and the Imo State government. I don't know if that's enough of an excuse for how they approached it.
No. You see, he spoke passionately, but he was passionately wrong. Look, the issue, this is not, if it was the president, the chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress or president of Nigerian Labour Congress, chairman of Nigerian Labour Congress in Imo State, it becomes an Imo State affair. This is the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, embracing the 32 states, the 36 states of this country, and Abuja.
Yes.
And I see this reason given by the representative that just spoke as an excuse and part of the blackmail that the government tried to use against Ajaero. And I'll just give you a short analogy. If they say it's a personal thing, how can it be a personal thing? He does not represent himself. He went there in an official capacity because of the acts of intimidation, and all the other crises that his members are facing in Imo State. But beyond
they were touting the Imo State government's talking points, because that's the insistence that
exactly what they were saying. Exactly, I agree with you, and that was absolutely wrong. But let me just give that analogy. If the president of this country had gone to Niger, for instance, to negotiate with the military junta in Niger, and then they arrest him, and then they hold him, and then they incarcerate him, and maybe lock him up. Is it a Tinubu thing? Is it the president's personal business? What Nigerian authorities would have done by that is a declaration of war against the Nigerian people and the Nigerian state. We will not say to be reckless for us, for Nigerians to argue, well, he went there, they just arrested him, it's just him. No, he is sovereign. He is, as long as he is the president of this country, he is our sovereign. And so he's the symbol of Nigerian unity and Nigerian sovereignty, whether we like him or not. And so it becomes a declaration of war. So what the Imo State government did was a declaration of war against the entirety of the Nigerian workers. You might disagree with the NLC one way or the other, but if they attack the president of the NLC or the president of the TUC, they have declared an attack against the entire workers of the NLC and the TUC, and that is what was done. It was never a personal thing, and I think it was very reckless for that House of Representative member to have made that statement. Like you said, it is a talking point. He went there in an official capacity. And there are so many other things. Even some people try to say, well, it's a political issue, it's a Labour Party issue, and all that. So it's partisan. There's nothing wrong with being partisan. 1, 2, Labour has dominated the politics of the United Kingdom for a very long time. The Labour Party, made up of unionists, made up of moderates and the rest. But Labour Party in Australia, you have it. Why is it a crime, for instance, for members of Labour to become members of the Labour Party that they set up their own political party? So these are part of the, these statements are being given as from a position of animus or out of sheer ignorance.
Look,
but we must move beyond that.
I understand that the prominence of the Labour Party in this election cycle has made that there's quite a few grey areas when people are talking about the unions and talking about the parties. But again, I come to how, there's no problem for union members to be members of a political party or to throw their support or whatever the case may be. But for people, and this includes just the average Nigerian citizen, it is a matter of, all right, have your political interests and whatnot, but do not hold the people, the system, the government to ransom because your political interests cannot be trusted to be in the interests of the people. It is a legitimate right. It's a fundamental right to have an interest. It is a fundamental right to be partisan. Because you see, people, it is the same way they used, the issue of subsidy to blackmail Nigerians until subsidy became evil. Became an evil word, so that whenever you talk about subsidy, even the man on the street, the shoemaker, the carpenter, all of them say remove it, because over years he has associated subsidy with everything that is bad in Nigeria. But yes, subsidy has remained in place in Europe and in the West, supported by governments who have been telling us to remove subsidy in Nigeria. So these are some of the issues. So when some of these talking points come up, we must refute them with every energy that we have, because they are wrong. The politicians are using it for whatever, selfish interest, just to pander to whatever interest that they have. So these are that's just what I'm trying to show clarity on what is going on. But beyond that, I know again that the NLC has not always covered itself in glory, and also part of the burden NLC has to bear is as a result of the failures of the NLC in the past few years, most especially, where they have not been able to walk the talk all the time. For instance, over this particular issue, I have not seen anything concrete from the federal government. Yes, they made promises, but this is what they always do. They make promises to the NLC, and then they just play for time. They are not interested in fulfilling all of these promises. And so after some time, NLC comes back again because the government has not listened to them. This is a government that does not listen, that does not abide by agreement. Not just this government, most governments in this country. I'm actually going to come to this in a moment. Let me open up the phone lines, right, so we're not hogging the conversation. Join the conversation. Let's get your thoughts so far. Labour has called off its strike, and we're discussing the dynamics that unfolded, things that are still very much up in the air, that have not been sorted out since this agreement was struck late yesterday. 0913 5000 953 and 0901 953. Send us a WhatsApp message to 0809 682 2595. John, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Abel. Good morning,
John.
Chike.
Go ahead.
And
good morning.
One of the things that I wanted to just articulate as part of what Achike has said so well is that one of the offshoots of the 2023 election is not really who won or who lost the election, but the level of awareness that has come over an entire generation to understand what is the real politic issue of Nigeria, and that it is Nigerians against corrupt politicians who want to perpetuate themselves and their avarice in power. And Labour was used as a veritable weapon to remove the PDP from power. And now Labour is now being seen as their enemy, to the point that they actually physically attack Labour leaders. The last time I remember as a student that a Labour leader was incarcerated was during Abacha time. And Tanko Korito today is one of the most revered Labour leaders of this country and its history. So, to come to the point where a governor or a government can have that attitude towards Labour, then what is in store for the rest of us? So I think that, yes, they've called off the strike, but whatever situation took place in Imo State must be investigated, and whoever was responsible must face the full wrath of the law.
And my question, John, really, Achike answered earlier that Labour's constituents are its members, which I agree with. I understand that. But I come back to, will the Nigerian people know who was arrested? Because someone has already been arrested, supposedly, but we still don't know who.
Which is why it is, in cases like this, what you expect to have is a Senate committee or a House of Rep committee that investigates this thing in front of the public. There should be a House inquiry going on right now with members of the House or members of the Senate carrying out an inquiry, interviewing people on live television to enable us to understand what exactly happened in Imo State and why it happened and to whom it happened and who ordered it and who perpetrated it. It cannot be something done in the office of the NSA. It has to be done in the public glare, so that people can understand that there are consequences for this. You cannot continue to tell us that the mantra of snatch it, grab it, run away with it continues to be pervading the entire Nigerian edifice.
All right.
No, we cannot continue to accept this as a way in which the government continues to perpetuate itself.
All right, John. Thank you for your contribution. And I actually do have the Senate's resolution after their debate yesterday. We'll come to it in a moment. Dr. Paul, good morning and welcome.
Nabila,
hi, Dr. Paul.
Good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
Those that was arrested and claimed by NSA, as far as Opposed Odema is concerned, nothing, truth is far from reality. That will be the end game of the whole thing. Are you telling me that then after the guy that heard the talk will be jailed? Because you don't punish wrongdoing in this country. Those of them must watch. Hate man will be jailed in this country. if it will happen, I think changes will come in this country. Because the way we are, the way people talk, okay, and I feel like you saw what happened. Most of them when people say these are rented workers, their marriage is good. You know this. Why are you banning Nigeria not to come? If all this is real, you must better that says, come, myself, go and interview them. You went to court, blah, 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 ban him, showing gullible Nigeria, these workers paying them. We know the reality. You know why I love that? Sam is a very good gentleman. Those of them will never be there forever. But another thing is that when you leave, you will still put another truth that will consider small worry. All this will not be heard again, the truth. But I believe the real workers now will still talk. Because all these things, every time the same man. Do you think all these things will wash away like that? As the saying goes, voice of people is voice of God. How many people have 100 courts now? How many people come and support? How many? What are the numbers? These are people, the psychopaths. I'm not being Timothy. I told you when I was there, check whether they're developing that state. Developing him. He's paying salary. The government in this country will pay salary without going to workers. It's impossible. The whole push of them might tell you the home party is paying workers. I know in them. Who push of them are not workers.
All right.
So, on Adam Soshimole, telling me, the worker there, and then they say, blah, blah, blah. When he was governor, what happened? A woman, he nearly called the woman with a convoy. Said the woman should go and die. Let out with the criticism from some of us. She called the woman and they dragged her and they gave her some money. If Adam Soshimole was attacked like this, he will bring down the roof.
Probably.
Yeah, no, probably he will Adam Soshimole attack like what happened to Adero. Then that's what we are talking. That's the way we are in this country. We don't need to say the way.
Well, Dr. Paul, you know how it is. Perspective changes as you change. This is a man who has moved from Labour leader to governor to party chairman to senator. Very different positions across the board.
Lovely. You know, this side now, using SUV 150 million, enjoying himself.
Dr. Paul.
What do you expect him to say? Can Adam Soshimole now compare the SUVs, all the promises, because the president we have now is still making promises, 35,000.
Yeah, and Dr. Paul, we're coming to that in a bit.
Promises.
All right, Dr. Paul.
Promises.
Let's leave it here, Dr. Paul.
Level of governance from Tinubu since he assumed office.
Let's leave it here, Dr. Paul.
Promise. Help me enjoy your supper today, enjoy tomorrow. Dr.
Paul, you're in danger of becoming a cynic for life, and I'm here to help you, so I don't want you to be cynical.
All my predictions are not coming.
Oh yeah, Dr. Paul, let's leave it here. I have Taufik holding.
All my predictions.
Dr. Paul, thank you.
Time we say, I love time so much. Time we say we have to move on in this country.
All right, Dr. Paul, thank you. I appreciate it. Taufik, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Please go ahead.
In respect of the response of the government to the labor, for me, I think it's belated. If all the effort made just between yesterday, about a day ago, could have been made much earlier, it means the strike wouldn't have come in place in the first instance. So I think the government needs to do more on that. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. Then secondly, in respect of this issue, there is this other issue that has to do with the Labour Party going, taking the APC to the court, and they are saying that it is until the court takes a decision. I would have loved.
Are you referring to the Imo State position?
Yes.
Yeah, they've not decided yet that they're going to court. What they said is if 7 days expire, then they will explore a court option, a legal option, if INEC does not reverse the results that were announced.
Now, if INEC uphold the election, what happens?
Then they may or may not go to court. The person we spoke to was the deputy chairman, so he says the legal department will assess the situation and decide.
Okay, because from what we can see from the LPU, the National Party, despite the court decision, the position of the LPU, you understand, and of course the position of the PDP. So I wonder what will be their own position too. Thank you.
Thank you, Taufik. I appreciate your contribution. It's the news review this morning. My guest is Achike Chude. And just to touch on a few things, Dr. Paul, Taufik all touched on the labor issue. Achike had said that I'm going to come to the Senate resolution. And interestingly, the conversation takes us to some of the promises that were made that the government has not yet fulfilled, which you raised. I think Dr. Paul raised it as well. We'll get to it in a bit. Let's first hear from this was Senator Godswill Akpabio, Senate President, speaking on the resolutions.
We urge the Nigerian Labour Congress, the TUC, as to all protesting unions to immediately call a stop to the ongoing strike in the national interest. Prayer 2, mandate the Senate President and the Senate leadership to immediately summon a meeting with the protesting union leaders with a view to resolving the issues amicably. Those in support of prayer to say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it.
So that was at plenary yesterday before the strike was suspended. And when we come to promises that were made, which includes the 35,000 naira wage award, not an increase in minimum wage, just a wage award for a few months, that was raised in Senator Adams Oshomole's point during the debate. And it ties us to a headline on the front page of The Guardian that reads, Reps demand implementation of 550 billion naira subsidy removal palliative. So we're going to hear Senator Oshomole, and then I come to a question and we get Achike's thoughts before we return to the phone lines.
We have obligation not only to intervene, but to do everything we can to find solution. But also take advantage of this moment to appeal to the federal government to honor their own obligation with regards to the 35,000 naira increase across the board is implemented by the 36 states and the 774 local government.
Right. Achike, this comment that was made by Senator Oshomole, I mean, the states are independent, so whether they would accept this 35,000 naira increase or not is a whole other conversation. And a few of them took their own initiative by increasing allowances for state workers, pensioners, and the likes to about 10,000 naira in a few places. I think it was Edo or where that increased minimum wage to 40,000 naira. A couple of states did that as well. Now, this matter of every time Labour meets the centre, the federal government, and they negotiate something that has to do with money, I can't help but think that we are a country that should be operating within a budget. So if they're negotiating with government in June, the budget for that year has already been in operation for January. And we say, oh, we want XYZ amount of extra money, or we want XYZ amount of money to go towards something else that was not prepared for. Should we start having conversations towards the next budgetary cycle as opposed to believing that government will implement based on something they didn't plan for?
No. I understand the thrust of your argument, but I think it's wrong when you look at the fact that there is a structure for wage adjustments for workers at all times. It's not something, it's there in the laws, that at specific period of time, based on the inflationary trend of things, that since you have the interest of your workers at heart, that you must also realize that the wages and the emoluments or take-home pay of your workers have to reflect the changing times and the economic dynamics at play in the country. So even if, for instance, you're a private person, not even a government, when things become bad, like immediately the subsidy was removed and then it became a very big problem for workers everywhere. What did a lot of companies do, private-owned companies most especially? They cut down the hours of work, the number of days of work. It was to reflect the reality, and some now began, for those who had the facility to do work at home and all that, they began to do that. So, but in our laws, again, there are, like I said, mechanisms or structures for the adjustment of workers' wages so that they will reflect the economic dynamics in the country. And that is essential. And what has happened is that over the years, workers have been, I won't say they've been negligent. They have tried to endure to accommodate the government's continuous insistence that there is no money in the system. So you find out that even when they are negotiating, it's like the ASO crisis that broke down. Over 8 years after the last agreement, they were supposed to have gone back to also renegotiate new agreement based on new realities. The government never agreed. When ASU goes on strike, people begin to castigate them. But the reality is that it is law. It is part of the component of our law that after a particular period in time, you have to intervene meaningfully to increase on the basic welfare allowances of your workers. So it's not something that is strange. And besides, for those who are saying, well, are the workers not are the states not independent and other? Of course the states are independent. It is part of that independence of the state that makes virtually all the governors, when they leave power, some of them the state has their own state house of assembly, have passed pension laws to accommodate the governors who are going to go into the Senate to become governors, and then while retaining monies as past governors. So how come that independence of states does not allow or abhor that kind of provision for the ex-governors? It is simply because they are one and the same. There's no difference between the political class. What they do in Zamfara, they do in Kaduna, they do in Anambra, they do in Oyo State, and so on. It's just that once in a while you have one or two people that are few, but these ones are far. One or few people that are different, but these people are far in between. So but when it comes to the labor, people will say, well, states are independent, let the states be in a position to determine their own financial enterprises or future or whatever, or engagement with their workers. But the governors, the revenue mobilization and fiscal
RMAFC
body, REMAF, makes what do you call it, decisions on what governors earn across the country. They make decisions on what ministers earn across the country, and public office holders and all that. They are made at the national level. So why would it be different when it comes to the workers? Then you now say you talk about the independence of the state. Why is the state not independent when it comes to what is being fixed for the governors at the national level and public office holders? So these are part of the hypocrisy which some of us must continue to refute each time they bring it up, because it's done out of hypocrisy.
Now, Chike, I'm going to take a moment. We've got maybe 5 minutes to the end of the conversation. If one more call comes through, I'll take it. 0913 5000 953 and 0901 1111953 on WhatsApp 0809 6822595. Biggest OOs on WhatsApp morning. He says, the part that is still sketchy, how many months' salary is being owed by the government of Imo? He said judges are owed 9 months' salary, were owed 9 months' salary before he came on board, and he cleared all those backlogs. Educate us with facts, please. Well, biggest O, here's what it is. The Imo State Labour Union actually has two factions at the moment, and just for the sake of ease, one faction is identified as supporting the governor, the other faction is identified as being behind the National Labour, so the Ajero faction, and that faction insists that they're still being owed up to 2 years of salaries, that pension is being owed, about 22 months of pension is being owed. The faction that supports the governor says that the governor has cleared it all. Just yesterday he had a meeting, a press conference of sorts with that faction of Labour in Imo State, and he had promised them, they're going to see an increase, they're going to see 13th month salary, all of this. So again, two different perspectives. Very quickly, Ambassador Musbao joins us. Ambassador Musbao, you've got a minute. Morning.
Chike, my brother, how are you doing over there? Yeah. So look.
Good morning, my brother. Yeah.
Yeah. Nabila.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, to me, I think NLC should go back and to like say if there's any drawing board to go and plan and strategy very well. And Ajero too to look inward and drop his idea of whether being politician whatever and face the real struggle. Trust and not for everybody. To me, this strike whatever is uncalled for. And what is happening in Anambra, in Imo? Please, we want investigative journalists to go there and give us more. We want to know what is going on there. Just whether they give us lies or whatever, we want to know the deep down. Who is lying? I can see all students of them yesterday with all the workers. Look, we are not fools. If they come and tell the real fact, what is going on? Just now. So anything to look inward. We can call us strike again. Nigeria will believe them all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Musbao. I appreciate your contribution. Yes, Chike, final thoughts.
Let me just say this. There's only one NLC in Imo State and TUC in Imo State, loyal to the national body. Every other thing that that is set up by the politicians is not the genuine thing, and we all know this. We know that this is the game they always play.
I hear you, but
I would expect Nigerians to,
the nuance exists, and we cannot ignore the nuance, because if they were loyal to the national body, then we shouldn't have seen the national body take a decision to initiate a strike in Imo. Then they initiated a nationwide strike, but somehow Imo workers, some of them, not all of them, went to work.
Can I tell you something? Let me tell you. Yes, International Labour Convention. I can't remember the convention now. Makes it very clear that employers should never interfere with the activities of employees through bribery, intimidation, and inducements. Because they understand at the International Labour, Organization, at the various conventions, they understand that employers do this. They use divide and rule tactics for the purpose of keeping the workers divided and not focused on specific issues that are of concern to them. So this is abhorrent, and we have seen this happen several times. Not just within labor, even the doctors' associations, even the ASO, they have always tried. It's just that
not wrong. We've seen politicians have a bearing.
Under the military administration, Ibrahim Babangida, we know what he did with the Nigerian Bar Association with Sophie Kuye, and I can't remember the other man too at the time in Port Harcourt when they tried to break the Nigerian Bar Association. So we should, when we see what is right, let us say it is right. Let us condemn what is condemnable. And we should not be led on a merry-go-round when a governor uses the resources of the state to divide the workers because he doesn't want to, respond to the genuine yearnings of the workers. This is what they have always done. And that's why I say there's only one. Forget that they have been able to try to divide some of the workers through intimidation, inducement. You know what happened when they had their Congress, the NLC had their Congress in Imo State. They sent thugs to them, and they destroyed and beat up people. So this is not the first time. The attack on Joe Ajero is not the first time. Well, one thing I will not do when I'm in the public space is just to deliberately say something that is a lie and then to say it is true or something that is true. I say it the way I understand it, the way I see it. And so there is just one faction. There's just one NLC in Imo State. Any other thing is a counterfeit. It's as simple as that. Let me put it that way. You could have two factions, but anyone that is not loyal to the TUC and to the NLC in Imo State at the national level, then it does not come from the workers of the state, because the workers have their true representative and not those ones chosen by Hope Uzodinma.
Chike, I did say from the beginning that it was a coincidence or fate that you were our guest on the News Review with this conversation today. I want to say thank you for your insight, your time, as always. See you in another long time no speak, long time no see conversation. Chike Chude offering us his time this morning on the News Review. You want to stick around? Aramide Folorunsho is on standby with the latest in business and finance across Nigeria, Africa, and the rest of the world.
Every second and every minute, something new happens. The news breaks.
3 people at a spot, and angry mob decided to bomb.
Everyone wants to share it, but not everyone wants to dig deep. Now that's where we come in. We bring you the news and go beyond with in-depth conversations and analysis with stakeholders.
I honestly think that the federal government on its own part has
if voters or more people want to be part of that decision-making process, they need to be part.
GDP is not a good measure of development anyways. We are not there. We need to counter the narrative of the fact that their vote does not count. If their vote does not count.
We bring you the story within the story, and that's what makes us tick. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we go beyond the news.
We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos.
From the Central Business District of Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, this is 95.3 Business Now.
Thursday, the 16th of November. A very warm welcome to the program. I am Aramide Folorunsho. These are your business quick takes. Nigeria's annual inflation rose to 27.33% in October from 26.72% in September. That's according to the latest data released by the National Bureau of Statistics. The Statistics Office said the October inflation rate showed an increase of 0.61 points when compared to the September September 2023 headline inflation rate. And on a year-on-year basis, the headline inflation rate was 6.24 percent points higher compared to the rate recorded in October 2022, which was 21.09%. Meanwhile, in Ghana, annual consumer inflation rate slowed to a 14-month low of 35.2% in October 2023, down from 38.1% in September. That's the lowest since September 2022. Now, the cocoa, gold, and oil-producing country, which faces its worst economic crisis in a generation, is in talks with bilateral and commercial creditors to restructure its debts. African fintech company Yellow Card has launched PayPal USD, the stablecoin from American e-commerce company PayPal. Now, Yellow Card on Wednesday launched PayPal USD, being the first on the African continent. This new stablecoin from PayPal will open the horizons for digital financial transactions between Africa and the United States. Africa's leading infrastructure solutions provider, the Africa Finance Corporation, has announced Burundi and Sao Tome and Principe as its newest member countries, expanding its community of sovereigns to 42 African nations. This expansion expands AFC's footprint in East Africa, following the recent membership by South Sudan, Ethiopia, and Somalia, and legacy memberships by Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Djibouti, and Eritrea. Well, the Securities and Exchange Commission says it will launch the new e-dividend portal on the 30th of November 2023. The Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Lamido Yuguda, stated this at the 2023 Journalists Academy organized by the Nigerian Capital Market Institute, noting that the e-dividend portal will simplify the process of mandating accounts for e-dividend, improving efficiency and potentially leading to a significant fall in unclaimed dividends. Well, coming up after the break, we'll be reading the tea leaves of the October inflation data. Join us again, everyone.
This is 95.3 Business Now.
Connect with us now via our social media channels. Facebook.com/RadioNow953FM.
We're on Twitter too. Connect with us there and get involved.
At Radio Now 953FM. 953FM. Like what we do? Share it on your socials and tell everyone.
Want to see some more of us? Head over and meet us on Instagram
at Radio Now 953FM. Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos.
This is 95.3 Business Now.
Welcome back to Business Now. Nigeria's headline inflation rate rose to 27.33% in October, representing a 6.1% increase from the September rate of 26.72%. Now, this report on inflation is coming days after Multinational Professional Services Network, KPMG, forecast that Nigeria's headline inflation will rise to 30% by December 2023. Let's chat to the latest inflation figures and what it means moving forward. My guest on this is Kelvin Emmanuel. He's an economist, policy analyst, and CEO at Dairy Hills Limited. It's good to have you on the show this morning, sir. Thank you for coming through on the conversation. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Okay. At 27.33%, what's your first word on this October inflation figure? What were the key drivers?
Energy prices, food prices. And the energy and food prices are exposed to foreign exchange. So I'll tell you this. I don't share as bad as things are right now for Nigerians, I don't share the pessimistic outlook going into 2024 that these hikes are going to continue. Now, there is something that will make a game changer for Nigeria, and that is Dangote refinery. Nigerians don't realize how important that refinery is, because at full capacity utilization, Nigeria will stop importing petrol, AGO, Jet A1, DPK, base oil for lubricants, and so many other transportation and non-transportation fuels. In fact, that refinery has a 297,000 metric ton bulk storage terminal for propane,
and isobutane, which are lighter gases that are produced from refining of crude oil. So that refinery is a game changer. Now, it's encouraging that Dangote has finally signed a crude oil supply agreement with NNPC, and there are indications that before Christmas, they might start producing. That is what you need to backwardly integrate energy, because the energy demand takes about $1.2 billion monthly for white transportation fuels from the FX market in Nigeria. That puts pressure on the market, and you see that because demand is higher than supply, and there is a backlog of forwards that is still not being cleared 100%, you see that the rates keeps going, and there is a black market premium between the official and parallel market rate, which also affects companies that want to open LC to import enterprise or durable goods to be able to do consumer manufacturing in Nigeria and add to the pressure of the inflation you see in the economy. So for me, number one, I think that if you take energy import out of that equation, in Q1 of 2024, inflation will peak. You won't see a drastic drop in inflation figures, but it will peak. It will peak means that month-on-month increase is most likely going to stop. And then the work will be to start doing backward integration for food. I keep saying, look, we don't have enterprise manufacturing in Nigeria. Most of the companies there, the likes of JSK that has left Nigeria, I think one of our manufacturing companies just announced that they're also going to leave Sanofi. Sanofi is a French-based pharmaceutical manufacturer, one of the biggest pharmaceutical manufacturing companies in France, in Europe. And Sanofi was one of the companies that actually produced COVID vaccine variant in 2020 at the height of the epidemic. You know, them leaving means that they're going to appoint third-party distributors who are going to be bringing in Sanofi products in Nigeria. It will affect the pharmaceutical supply chain in Nigeria. So a lot of the problem they have, because if you look at pharmaceutical manufacturing, the active pharmaceutical ingredients, the industrial starch that is used as fillers, the diluents, you know, they are mostly imported. Only about 5 or 10% of the input that goes into pharmaceutical manufacturing is actually sourced in Nigeria. So when you look at the supply chain, you see that there is no enterprise manufacturing. And a key way for the government to begin to revise inflation over the long term down significantly towards their 6 to 9% target over the next 4 to 5 to 6 years is to work on enterprise manufacturing. You have consumer manufacturing, but you lack enterprise manufacturing. So you see that a lot of the consumer manufacturing companies, their supply chain is actually exposed to foreign exchange because they end up importing the inputs they need to manufacture.
But again, if we look at 27.33%, doesn't this look like Nigeria is losing the battle against inflation?
Well, when you say losing the battle, inflation in Ghana is about 35%. There are countries where inflation is over 70%. I'm not doing comparison to say, we don't have it bad. We have it bad because Nigerians, inflation is like is an unofficial tax. It's like a thief in the night that comes to take away from you. So inflation is not pretty for anybody. Yeah? Food inflation especially is killing and punishing because as we speak today, nearly 85% of the income of Nigerians actually goes into food and transportation, okay, which leaves them nothing for savings. And it's because the government is not being able to ring fence and control inflation, okay? So I just told you now that, look, the challenge is in energy and food. And the economy has been making appreciable progress with backward integration for energy. So I expect that by Q1, you're going to begin to see improvements in that area. But for food, you know, I'll tell you, the Minister of Agriculture has not shown any plan since he was appointed Minister of Agriculture and confirmed by the Senate on how he intends to tackle food inflation in Nigeria. Rice paddy, for example, is smuggled through the borders in the north into Nigeria. Because the rice paddy grown in Nigeria is not enough because of insecurity, because of the lack of irrigation for dry season farming, you know. And then a lot of the people who were farming rice actually ran away from their farms in the north. Okay? you have issues around sugar. You have issues around milk. Nigeria imports about 90% of the milk that it consumes. I think my estimate, Nigeria spent about $2.2 billion importing milk from Europe on a yearly basis. Yeah, you have wheat that is used for flour. The price of a bag of flour is currently about 43,000 naira per bag. 4 years ago, the price of a bag of flour was between 12 and 16,000 naira. So you can begin to imagine. Nigeria doesn't produce more than 250,000 metric tons of wheat, but it consumes 5 million metric tons of wheat on a yearly basis. So the question I have for the Minister of Agriculture is, what is your plan? And how are you implementing that plan to see that you begin to do backward integration and you begin to reduce the shocks that are required? Look, I'll tell you this. The blueprints on how to reverse the inflation in food prices in Nigeria actually do exist. So there's nothing like we're short of strategies on how to do it. The problem has always been political interference, lack of technical ability from the position of policy making to implement the plan and the blueprint required for you to reverse food inflation in Nigeria. Fertilizer prices were going for 5,000 naira 5 years ago. Today, fertilizer prices are costing close to 40,000 naira per bag. This affects food prices. So, what is the plan of the government to actually backwardly integrate muriate of potash and phosphates that are 70% of the composition for blending fertilizer, since Nigeria produces only ammonium nitrate gas? What is the plan of the government? These are the questions you need to ask, to know where they are in their desire to see that you rein in food inflation.
Okay, I want you to answer, if you can answer this last question in about 40 seconds. What immediate future level of inflation should Nigerians prepare for, and why?
I think that in Q1 of 2024, inflation is going to peak. I don't think it's going to exceed anywhere around 29%. Headline inflation. Food inflation, I don't think is going to exceed anywhere around 35%. I think from 29% headline and 35% food inflation, we're going to see a peak. And from there, it's going to be downhill.
All right. Thank you for sharing your insights on the latest inflation data with us. Kelvin Emmanuel, economist, policy analyst, and CEO at Dairy Hills Limited. Do have a great day ahead, sir.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, sir. Now let's just quickly head straight to the market and bring you a snapshot of our Wednesday's trading day. Sentiments remain positive in the local burs regardless of the increase in inflation data for October, 27.33%, as investors took positions in Wando 10%. MTN also went up 0.21%. Jitco 1.93%. Boa Cement did 1.96%. We saw Access Call 0.29%. Meteor just listed on the exchange not long ago, 9.92%, and NASCON 3.64%. As a result, the all-share index rose by 0.25% to close at 71,014.34 basis point. A quick look at foreign exchange now. The naira appreciated by 3.8% to 818 naira 99 kobo against the US dollar at the Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange Market. Meanwhile, the African Development Bank Group President Akinwumi Adesina is hosting a press conference today at the FDB headquarters in Abidjan with 7 Nigerian governors to discuss joint programs to accelerate socio-economic development in the 7 Nigerian states of Katsina, Kebbi, Jigawa, Zamfara, Kano, Kaduna, and Sokoto. Well, that's the package on business now this Thursday, the 16th of November. Thank you so much for listening. I am Aramide Folorunsho. It's bye for now.
This is 95.3 Business Now.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm a trader operating a chain of supermarkets. I engage in monthly comfortable contributions with my insurance company. It gave me the opportunity to inject capital into my business during peak periods and reap handsome returns. I never knew that an insurance company can be that helpful. Kudos to Mutual Benefits Assurance for such innovative and business-sustaining insurance products.
Take advantage of the delightful offers and experience the peace that comes with knowing that you can count on Mutual Benefits Assurance to protect you and what you value the most. Call Mutual Benefits Assurance today on 0905-474-4444 to get started and enjoy these and more, or visit www.mutualng.com for more information. Mutual Benefits Assurance, creating and protecting wealth.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations. You're listening to Now Breakfast.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen's in the studio. Hi, Stephen.
Hello, Nabila. Good morning, Lagos. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am pleased to tell you that Africa in Perspective will begin our show on the midday today. Before we jump into your take, sports summary, and a midday brunch conversation that focuses on a very important word: tolerance. It's the International Day of Tolerance. You'll find out all about that at 11:30. I've got stranger stories coming your way, business now, and this week's edition of Time Capsule, which has me very excited. But all of this goodness is going to precede 2 o'clock and Chika Agu on Now Express. Probably my favorite time of the day.
And at 6 p.m, Radio Now's David Chidu is on Now Drive Time. My name's Nabila Osman. I return tomorrow morning, first thing. But I'm still here to bring you the news at the top of the hour. Stay tuned to your Beyond the News station daily for our up-to-the-minute compact news bulletins from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., bringing you a wide range of local and international news from our news desk. Stay informed, stay updated on Radio